जैसे कि आप अपना बुलेटिन बनाते हैं रेडियो में और वो देश के हर कोने में जाता है. इट्स अ मोमेंट ऑफ प्राइड, यू नो, एंड एवरी डे वी एक्सपीरियंस दैट. बट आई वुड स्टिल rate my moments in the Indian Institute of Mass Communication as my best, because you see, आप ब्यूरोक्रेट हैं, कोई आपके nobody actually comes to touch your feet for having done any service for them, because that is your job. But as a teacher, when you are a little different, when you contribute a little to somebody's life, they come back to you. When I got into government, you know, people keep blowing you up with, you know, false praise and just because of the chair. So I was never very certain whether people are coming to me because of my worth or because of my chair. Being in government, I was happy, but I felt constrained. But being on my own, I've been happier. Uh, in the sense that I have found a lot of fulfillment in my own purpose. हम लोग के टाइम में ज़्यादा ऑप्शंस थे नहीं. You know, you had, okay, you become a doctor, engineer, teacher, or you join the civil services. So those were the kind of options that we had. And धक्के से हम लोग कहीं पहुंच जाते थे. अब क्या है, when I went to Labasna, I found a lot of officer trainees who were only 22, and this was their first job. So I was very happy at the trend, because you see, when you join young, you get molded easier. So I think it's very, very encouraging to see women coming into civil services. And you see, also they have a very, women are naturally built to be more empathetic, and that is what is required in government service today. अब civil service में आप देखिए, जो हमारा अभी जो all in one exam है, इसमें एक डॉक्टर भी एग्ज़ाम लिख रहा है, एक इंजीनियर भी एग्ज़ाम दे रहा है, और कोई कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड से भी है वो भी दे रहा है, MBA भी है वो भी देते हैं, सब दे रहे हैं एग्ज़ाम. और जब चुन के आते हैं तो वो क्या काम कर रहे हैं. अब वो डॉक्टर है तो ये ज़रूरी नहीं कि वो हेल्थ में ही जाएंगे, कहीं भी हो सकते हैं, कुछ भी कर सकते हैं.
Hello and welcome to Civilsdaily Changemaker Officer Series. This is a series where we interact with veteran bureaucrats, because veteran bureaucrats are those people who have the experience of more than 20 years in these services, and this kind of experience, they know system and administration a lot better, and they have a lot of interesting stories to tell to our current UPSC aspirants. Today we have with us Shalini Ma'am. Shalini Ma'am joined IIS in 1990. She has worked with Doordarshan, All India Radio, IB Ministry, and she has also trained IIS officers at IIMC. She took VRS in 2013. Had she not taken VRS, she would have been a special secretary or a DG by now in any government organization. After VRS, she has also worked with private sector. She does a lot of freelance work also. So thank you, Shalini Ma'am, for taking out your time and interacting with Civilsdaily.
Thank you.
So ma'am, you have spent 23 years in the government. 23 years in government is not a small achievement, it's a very big achievement. So after spending 23 years in government, you have also been associated with various other sectors and various other positions you have held in last 10 years. So how has last 32 years been like?
Yeah, 32 years is a very long time. And I must say that they have been very interesting for me, because when I was in government, the first half was actually just spent, you know, learning so much, because you see, one day you're editing a bulletin for radio, another day you're doing it for television.
Right.
Then sometimes you are writing editorials for employment news, and at other times you're training probationers or officer trainees. So it's been a very varied experience. So that was, what to say, we were sort of just trying to find a work-life balance at that time. And after taking VRS, you know, 1 year I took basically to center myself. And that was a very important 1 year in my life. And then I decided to join an organization which worked in the area of digital financial inclusion. So the thing was, immediately after my graduation, I attempted the civil service exam, and I was fortunate to get selected in the first attempt. So I had not seen any other employer. So I wanted to experience that, but I was very clear that I didn't want to go in for a private company because I didn't want to work for profit. The idea of joining government service was for serving the people of the country, and that remained for me. So I joined that organization, the Digital Financial Inclusion Organization, and I stayed there for a year. And after that, I have basically been freelancing, and I worked in the mental health sector a lot. Also worked with some other organizations which actually are involved with drug de-addiction and also with children.
I'm 32 years of experience you have, out of which 23 years were spent in government. So were there any moments in government which were extremely satisfying, which made you happy कि ठीक है ये है सरकारी नौकरी का सही फायदा जनता के लिए कुछ
Okay.
ऐसा कोई मोमेंट था?
There were very many moments like that. जैसे कि आप अपना बुलेटिन बनाते हैं रेडियो में और वो देश के हर कोने में जाता है. It's a moment of pride, you know, and every day we experience that. Same thing with Doordarshan, and like for instance, we were the first in DAVP. Now that's called the Central Bureau of Communication.
Correct.
So we were only giving out advertisements to Doordarshan and radio till then. But when I joined in 2005 over there, I was given charge of the audiovisual cell, and suddenly we had an expansion of satellite channels, and everybody wanted rates for them. So that was a really tough nut to crack, because you see there was no viewership data that was coming to us which was accepted by everybody. Then finally we started getting TAM data, and based on the TAM data we got a formula together, and that was a huge achievement. And then when I was in Department of Publications Division, there they declared me best employee, and there was this little meeting of all officers, and you presented a certificate and all that. So those are all very good moments from government service, and behind each of those there was a lot of effort and lot of training that went into it. But I would still rate my moments in the Indian Institute of Mass Communication as my best, because you see, आप ब्यूरोक्रेट हैं, कोई आपके nobody actually comes to touch your feet for having done any service for them, because that is your job. But as a teacher, when you are a little different, when you contribute a little to somebody's life, they come back to you.
Right.
And there have been moments when children have come and touched my feet and said they've made a change. I've helped make a change in their life.
Lives, yeah.
So those have been the really precious moments, and those actually really inspired me to go into teaching. I mean, I wouldn't say full time, but I wanted to spend more time teaching.
23 years in government आप थे. 2013 में आपने VRS ले लिया. वो मोमेंट क्या था कि जब आपको लगा कि हाँ, क्योंकि यू हैड एवरीथिंग, आपको लगा, आपके पास एज भी थी, आपके पास काफ़ी टाइम था, यू कुड हैव बिकम DG, स्पेशल सेक्रेटरी, द बेस्ट दैट द सर्विस कुड ऑफर. तो बिल्कुल सिक्योर जॉब है, क्यों ही रिस्क लेना, एज भी है लाइफ में. फिर अचानक से VRS ले लेना और डिसाइड करना कि नहीं, अब गवर्नमेंट जॉब नहीं करनी है, अब प्राइवेट सेक्टर में जाना है या अपना कुछ फ्रीलांस काम करना है. वो मोमेंट क्या था, कब डिसाइड किया कि हाँ अब बस हो गया?
तो देखिए, ऐसा नहीं होता है कि there is a moment when you suddenly decide to give up everything. It happens gradually over time. There are very many factors. तो उसमें एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर था कि हमारी सर्विस जब हमने ज्वाइन किया तो हम लोग ओल्ड पेंशन स्कीम पे थे. ओल्ड पेंशन स्कीम में आफ्टर 20 years if you take retirement you get full pension.
Right.
So that was very attractive. The second part was that I had the option to quit because my husband, B. Narayanan, he is also in the same service. So it was not that anybody was depending on me for money
help,
or
yeah.
for salary or for anything. And also, there was that one defining moment, if any, was that I had already put in 5 years in the Indian Institute of Mass Communication.
Correct.
And I was liking the academic life. I often call it the life of the mind, where you're thinking and you're analyzing things. And then I was due to go back to bureaucracy, and somehow I didn't feel very much
टीचिंग पसंद आने
inclined.
लग गया था बहुत ज़्यादा.
Kind of, yes. So that all of the factors together, and also like, Acha, I must tell you that I have this book of mine which was published in 2019. This is actually a collection of my Facebook blogs, where I have actually talked about my reasons of quitting, because this is a question I get asked very
So
often.
you're an author also. You write blogs also.
I write, yes. This is my first fiction book, if you can say so.
It is looking for
Myself,
which ma'am has written, of course, after taking VRS and doing her own work.
And of course, this was the other one, which this is a totally academic book,
This
which
is
was
India connected,
connected.
mapping the impact of new media.
Yeah.
So this is also ma'am has written.
Yes, in government. In fact, this was outside the government. This was one of the moments I cherish. When this book was released by our minister, Honorable Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Colonel Rajavardhan Rathod, he released this book for us, and my entire office fraternity turned up for it. And this book is done very well. It is still quoted as one of the seminal works in the field of new media in India. फिर इसका हिंदी भी छपा, इसका मराठी भी छपा, and both have done, I mean, all of them have done well.
Right.
So, but your question was about the defining
moment. वो समय क्या था? Moment क्या था?
समय तो वही जो आपको बता रहे हैं कि
Teaching के
I
time-
had to go back.
हाँ.
I had to go back, and
And you kind of explored a new dimension because of your teaching.
yes,
You
and
started writing.
I also got attracted to this idea of thinking about communication as a discipline. I had been a practitioner before, but coming to the institute, I started looking at the trends that are there in communication and thinking about them, and we published some papers. I did a research study on the Bharat Nirman campaign. So like that, you see, so I thought that in the daily grind of being a bureaucrat, you somehow miss the big picture, and I wanted to look at that.
You wanted to look at that. 23 years in government versus 10 years in private sector and freelance work, of course. A lot of you have already said what you have been doing. So if we have to compare 23 years versus 10 years, how do we compare?
It's not a fair comparison, because
Sure.
they are not the same time
Sure.
length. But I would say being in government was also fulfilling, but at the same time, like I said, that was my first job. I was fresh out of college, and I had not seen the world. And when I got into government, people keep blowing you up with, false praise, and just because of the chair. So I was never very certain whether people are coming to me because of my worth or because of
Of
my
your
chair.
chair.
And I wanted to find out what was the truth, which may or may not turn out palatable, but I'm still struggling to find that. So, so I would say that during the 23 years of government, I felt a little constrained, in the sense that I was always conscious that I am representing the government, so I must behave in a certain way, I must interact in a certain way, I should not be seen on social media in any other kind of avatar. I had to sort of restrict my personality. That was one. The other part was that bureaucracy, I never really learned the rules. Sorry to say that, but I always feel inadequate when it comes to administration or following, the rule book. And because my mind was more inclined towards the creative side of everything. So I would say that personally, I felt a little bit constrained during my time in the government. Outside the government, I could pick and choose. I chose what assignment I want to do. I decided, okay, I'll join this or I won't join this. I won't say that offers were flooding in, but yes, I did get approached by couple of people to join their organizations. But you see, they would basically want to exploit my network and ask me what I'm bringing to the table. And after serving in government, you really cannot really endorse that kind of approach.
Right.
You know, so anything that I wanted to do, I wanted to do it with my heart. So that because I quit government, I was able to do that. So 1 year I spent just speculating on what are my strengths, and then I decided to try out a 9 to 5 job, and then I realized that actually now I'm unemployable because I no longer want to stick to a routine. I no longer want to. I have my own ideas which I'd like to use. So I decided to use it for the idea of service was always there. So I joined some NGOs, of course on a voluntary basis, and like I worked with SPYM for a long time, and I'm still associated with them. Whenever they need any help with their communications, I'm there. And I like to believe that actually there was a difference after I joined them. And SPYM is actually now almost, I mean, 35 years plus in existence.
Right.
And it works for rehabilitating those who are addicted to drugs. And you know, little children are there, and adults are there, women are there, addicted to drugs, and it's really pathetic to see them. And I have been to some of their homes where they keep the children of those who are those who are addicted to drugs, and those children are so sweet, and but the parents are not able to care for them. So the Delhi government mandates that they should be kept with some shelter for some time. So I've been going there off and on, and so SPYM has been a very long association now. Apart from that, I've also worked with the Richmond Fellowship Society, and I'm now a part of the governing council even now. And there also we've tried to, that works in the area of rehabilitation of people suffering from very serious mental illnesses like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So, see, every field is like a rabbit hole, no? If you go inside, there is an entire, you can just keep searching, keep keep discovering stuff.
Right, keep digging.
Yeah. So mental health is one area like that. And right now we've just brought out a brochure, and now we're working on their newsletter, and we keep going there. The organization has a presence in Delhi, in NCR. So they have a facility called Vishwas, so I go there. So these are very fulfilling assignments for me personally. Apart from that, of course, academic ones have always been there. And so I would say that being in government, I was happy, but I felt constrained. But being on my own, I've been happier. Uh, in the sense that I have found a lot of fulfillment in my own purpose.
So ma'am, what are your current projects? अभी आप किन projects पे काम कर रहे हो? और टाटा हेल्थ मॉड्यूल जो है, which हेल्थ मॉड्यूल है जो आप टाटा ग्रुप के साथ बना रहे हो, what is that?
तो जैसे आप लोग जानते हैं, टाटा मेमोरियल सेंटर इज़ डेडिकेटेड टू द केयर ऑफ कैंसर पेशेंट्स. और कैंसर इतना समझना आसान नहीं है उस बीमारी को. So what happens is, patients who come in, they come from all walks of life, and some of them are able to understand the technicalities, some are not. Besides that, they have a lot of questions, and they have a lot of, misconceptions. So Tata decided to start this course in 2018. It's a PG diploma in patient navigation. और जो इसके पास आउट्स होते हैं उनको केवट कहा जाता है. केवट आपको पता ही है, केवट का काम होता है कि आपको नाव को खे कर वो आपको एक किनारे से दूसरे किनारे ले जाता है. तो केवट का काम वही है, मतलब जो टाटा मेमोरियल के यहाँ जो केवट हैं उनका भी वही काम है. वो क्या करते हैं कि वो डॉक्टर्स और मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर्स से समझते हैं कि पेशेंट को क्या समझाना है, एंड पेशेंट को समझाते हैं कि किस तरह से वो उस बीमारी से वो जूझें, क्या क्या अब होने वाला है, what is the next step, what are we going to do, why are we doing this scan, why are we not doing this. And aside from that, they also go out in the catchment areas and they explain to people on how to watch out for signs of cancer. तो ये एक बड़ा डिटेल्ड मॉड्यूल है, बड़ा डिटेल्ड कोर्स है, 1 साल चलता है और उसमें उनको हर तरह के एस्पेक्ट सिखाए जाते हैं. सो दे अप्रोच्ड अस फॉर टू डू अ वर्कशॉप विद देम इनिशियली इन 2020 जब कोविड का टाइम चल रहा था. तो तब उन्होंने कहा कि इफ़ेक्टिव कम्युनिकेशन पे आप 2 दिन की एक वर्कशॉप करिए. तो हमने ऑनलाइन की थी एंड somehow that got a very good review and so we started working with them. And जो पेशेंट नेविगेटर्स का अभी अराउंड आई थिंक 32 to 35 स्टूडेंट्स आर देयर, इनका कोर्स हमारा आधा हो चुका है. एंड देयर वी टॉक अबाउट एवरीथिंग रिलेटेड टू हेल्थ कम्युनिकेशन. तो उसमें हम पेशेंट प्रोवाइडर कम्युनिकेशन की बात करते हैं, दैट इज़ हाउ टू टॉक विद एम्पथी, how to work as a team also, you know, that's also a very important aspect. फिर टेली हेल्थ के बारे में उनको बताते हैं. तो कई तरह के एरियाज़ हैं जो कि इफ़ेक्टिव कम्युनिकेशन इन द हेल्थ केयर सेटिंग दे आर इम्पॉर्टेंट. तो वो पार्ट हम लोग पढ़ा रहे हैं इसको. और अभी कल ही उन्होंने शुरू किया है, उनका एक अग्रीमेंट है टाटा मेमोरियल का विद इंडोनेशिया. तो CPN इंडोनेशिया वाले जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं उनके लिए भी हेल्थ कम्युनिकेशन का मॉड्यूल हम लोग ले रहे हैं. So that actually makes for an involvement of more than 6 months, and we have online and in-person lectures. We grade them, do everything for them. So that is one part of what I'm doing currently. उसके अलावा जैसे हमने बताया था आपको कि हम 4 साल हम लोगों ने डिवोट किए and we have written a very comprehensive manuscript on WhatsApp. But somehow we're still trying to find a publisher for that. That should be coming out shortly. So that is one. And then there was बीच बीच में कुछ ना कुछ एकेडमिक काम करते रहते हैं. तो जैसे अभी स्प्रिंगर की एक है हैंडबुक ऑन डिज़ास्टर मैनेजमेंट, उसमें आई रोट चैप्टर. एंड apart from that, I take often classes in IP, GGS IPU University. And of course, IMC से touch है, but I don't really often go there. But I go mostly to academies to train.
Right. So, as you are a frequent visitor to academies like Labasna, National Police Academy, जहाँ customs की training होती है वहाँ भी आप जाते हो. So you must have interacted with a lot of young officers जो अभी अभी UPSC का एग्ज़ाम दे के वहाँ ट्रेनिंग लेने जा रहे हैं. तो उन यंग ऑफिसर्स को जब आप देखते हो, हाउ डू यू फाइंड देम? क्या वो एनर्जेटिक होते हैं? आर दे टू एम्बिशियस? आर दे टू आइडियलिस्ट? कैसे कुछ कंपैरिजन कर पाते हो कि जब आप 1990s में यंग ऑफिसर थे और आज के जब 25-26 साल के यंग ऑफिसर्स को देखते हो, क्या डिफरेंस दिखता है?
डिफरेंस तो काफ़ी दिखता है. हम लोग के टाइम में ज़्यादा ऑप्शंस थे नहीं. यू नो, यू हैड ओके, यू बिकम अ डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर, टीचर, और you join the civil services. So those were the kind of options that we had, and धक्के से हम लोग कहीं पहुंच जाते थे. But I found that when I started training my own officers, I realized that they have worked in very many other companies. The average age, I'm talking about 2011 to 2010 to 2013. During that time, the kind of officer trainees we got, they had very good, you know, they had qualifications which we only dreamed about. Like, you know, they were from IITs and IIMs, and they had worked in companies like Cognizant. I mean, in comparison, government doesn't give you that kind of salary. So I was totally flummoxed. Why are they joining the government? But then I realized that there is a lot of, you know, in private sector, when you're working and at such high salaries, you don't really have a life of your own. You know, to have that work-life balance, government gives you a good opportunity. And of course, the respect that comes, you know, as a government officer, that's another key factor why people want to join. So that was the situation then. But now, at that time, in fact, I hardly found any freshers. Freshers as in, like, you can start writing the exam at 21. So 22 पे join करने वाले बहुत कम थे. अब क्या है, when I went to Labasna, I found a lot of officer trainees who were only 22, and this was their first job. So I was very happy at the trend because you see, when you join young, you get molded easier. Um, and your expectations are also limited, you know. Whereas people who worked elsewhere, they have seen how other companies treat them or value them, then it becomes a little difficult for them to adjust to government.
When you joined IIS, India was going into a liberalization, privatization, globalization mode. 1991 इकोनॉमी बहुत कुछ हो रहा था मार्केट में, तो कम्युनिकेशन के साथ भी बहुत कुछ हो रहा था. राइट नाउ सोशल मीडिया हैज़ इमर्ज्ड, न्यू फॉर्म्स ऑफ न्यू मीडिया जिसको हम कहते हैं, दैट हैज़ इमर्ज्ड. बहुत सारे कम्युनिकेशन टूल्स हैं हमारे पास. हाउ डू यू थिंक कि ये इवॉल्व कैसे हुए हैं, और आज गवर्नेंस के पर्सपेक्टिव में हाउ आर दे हेल्पिंग in that?
So I think, from 1990 till today, there has been a sea change because the internet has revolutionized governance. So one part was internet, and then when actually Web 2.0 came in with all social media included in it, that really brought about a big change in the way government was looking at the public also. Because पहले एक एटीट्यूड था सरकार माई बाप, और अब क्या पार्टनरशिप वाली बात है, तो वो पैराडाइम चेंज हुआ. और सोशल मीडिया अपने साथ लाया 3 क्वालिटीज़ जो कि बहुत चेंज ला सकती हैं. 2-वे कम्युनिकेशन जो पहले नहीं था, उसके अलावा इंस्टेंटेनिटी, आप इमीडिएटली आपको जो है रिस्पॉन्स मिलता है, और तीसरा है कन्वर्जेंस. तो तीनों उससे जो है आपकी गवर्नेंस की जो फंक्शनिंग है जो वो बहुत चेंज हुई, बिकॉज स्पेशली व्हेन इट केम टू डिलीवरी ऑफ सर्विसेज. एंड ऑल ऑफ अस नो दो स्टोरीज. आई मीन आई कैन टेल यू फ्रॉम माय पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस. जब हम लोग 1990 में जब हम लोग दिल्ली पहुंचे थे, तो कहीं भी जाना होता था तो हम लोग सरोजनी नगर के ये इस पे रेलवेज़ के काउंटर पे खड़े रहते थे, और मतलब वहाँ इंक्वायरी के लिए एक लाइन अलग होती थी और टिकट खरीदने की दूसरी लाइन होती थी. तो आप ये मान के चलो कि आधा दिन तो आपका गया, कभी कभी पूरा दिन भी गया, और आपको जल्दी पहुँचना होता था, एट्सेट्रा एट्सेट्रा. तो बहुत तो अब आज जो है हम घर बैठे फटाफट हम टिकट बुक कर रहे हैं. तो उस तरह से बहुत सारी चेंजेस आए हैं. हमने वो युग भी देखा है और ये भी देखा है. तो हम तो कहेंगे कि आज की तारीख में गवर्नमेंट्स आर क्लोजर टू देयर पब्लिक्स, and the public is able to bring their frustrations and grievances. आप एक ट्वीट करके देखिए जिसमें आप टैग कीजिए रेलवे मिनिस्टर को, आपको रिस्पांस मिलता है. और एक ज़माना था जब लेटर टू एडिटर अगर छप गया तो आप उछलते थे. अखबार में लेटर टू एडिटर छपना बहुत बड़ी चीज़ थी. आई डोंट नो वेदर एनी ऑफ यू इन दिस जनरेशन इवन हैव एवर रेड अ लेटर टू द एडिटर. So that is the kind of change that has been brought about. So I think the challenge now with the government is to be more accountable. And if you're not accountable, don't go onto social media, because you're likely to get brickbats. And this was a main thing that we were teaching in IIMC. We used to get groups of officers for training at IIMC from different walks of life. So like we had one training for the Press Information Bureau. Then all the state governments used to come. Then the armed forces used to come. So we used to, our basic task was what is the word for it? Evangelize.
Right.
Tech evangelism बोलते हैं. तो we tried to get the government departments to go onto social media to improve their interaction with the public. But for that, you need a change in mindset. A lot of us have not been able to make that change. But a lot of us have also.
Right.
Yeah.
Ma'am, it's heartening to see so many women aspiring to get into civil services now. आपने 1990 में ज्वाइन किया था. उस टाइम women कितना ज्वाइन करती थी सिविल सर्विसेज? 32 ईयर्स के बाद कितना अब करती हैं? क्या डिफरेंस दिखता है आपको? द फैक्ट दैट women want to get into civil services, उनको ये जॉब अब करनी है, और वो मेन से बेटर भी कर रही हैं और ज़्यादा भी क्रैक कर रही हैं इस एग्ज़ाम को. तो कैसा लगता है, और कैसा आपका ओपिनियन क्या है इस पर?
I think women are making great strides not only in government but every sector. तो आप देखिए तो आपको प्राइवेट सेक्टर में मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर्स मिलेंगी, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर्स मिलेंगी, एंड आई मीन दे आर डूइंग वेल एवरीवेयर. And I think this is a trend across society, which is, as you said, very heartening to note. And I find women bosses are now more acceptable also. पहले लोगों को थोड़ा कुछ शायद बुरा लगता था. So I think it's not limited to the civil services alone, and it's a very encouraging trend because you see, government is a very good employer as far as women are concerned. They are very compassionate. आप देखिए किसी और जॉब में आपको इस तरह से मैटरनिटी लीव नहीं मिलेगी, आपको चाइल्ड केयर लीव नहीं मिलेगी. And when I joined, of course, there was no child care leave. Though I do think this leave is a bit discriminatory for women, for men, but I understand the logic for it. अब आपको 2 साल की मतलब पेड लीव मिलती है कि आप अपने बच्चों की परवरिश कर सकें. वो कहाँ मिलेगा आपको? So that way, and also your rank and your position is kept intact. आप 2 साल छुट्टी पे जाते हैं, आपको पूरी तनख्वाह मिलती है, और आप जब वापस आते हैं आप वहीं ज्वाइन करते हैं जहाँ आप छोड़ के गए थे. So I think it's very encouraging to see women coming into civil services, and you see also they have a very women are naturally built to be more empathetic, and that is what is required in government service today, because like I said, माई बाप वाली सरकार अब गई. तो आज की तारीख में महिलाएं ज्वाइन करती हैं तो इट इज़ गुड फॉर द गवर्नमेंट ऑल्सो.
Right. Ma'am, UPSC as an exam, UPSC as a body conducts civil services exam. So it conducts one exam for 24 services. Do you think this is right on UPSC's end? Do you think this process should change? क्योंकि specialized services अलग है, generalist जैसे IAS service है वो अलग है. तो UPSC को एक ही एग्ज़ाम लेना चाहिए सारी सर्विसेज का, या फिर कुछ इसमें रिफॉर्म्स होने चाहिए?
देखिए हम लोग बहुत छोटे लोग हैं, हमारे शोभा शायद नहीं देता कि हम उसके बारे में बोलें, बट येस द ट्रेंड वर्ल्ड ओवर इज़ दैट यू हैव स्पेशलाइज्ड सर्विसेज फॉर स्पेशलाइज्ड टास्क्स. एंड देखिए फिर आप उसी हिसाब से क्वालिफाइड लोगों को लेते हैं सर्विस में. तो आई थिंक 2 changes are required if possible. One is of course that you must recruit people exactly for what they are going to be doing later. अब सिविल सर्विस में आप देखिए जो हमारा अभी जो ऑल इन वन एग्ज़ाम है, इसमें एक डॉक्टर भी एग्ज़ाम लिख रहा है, एक इंजीनियर भी एग्ज़ाम दे रहा है, और कोई कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड से भी है वो भी दे रहा है, MBA भी है वो भी देते हैं, सब दे रहे हैं एग्ज़ाम. और जब चुन के आते हैं तो वो क्या काम कर रहे हैं? अब वो डॉक्टर है तो ये ज़रूरी नहीं कि वो हेल्थ में ही जाएंगे, कहीं भी हो सकते हैं, कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. इंफॉर्मेशन सर्विस में अक्सर ही होता था कि जब आपके पास रिक्रूट होके आए हैं इंफॉर्मेशन सर्विस में, जिनका मेडिकल बैकग्राउंड है, उनको आप कभी हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री के साथ काम करने का मौका नहीं देते. तो इट्स अ वेस्ट ऑफ रिसोर्सेज, इट्स अ वेस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्टिविटी, बिकॉज यू सी दूसरा पॉइंट ये है कि वो आपका इम्तहान इतना लंबा है, 1 साल का तो आपका एग्ज़ाम ही है. तो जो डॉक्टर है या इंजीनियर है या जो MBA है या अदर क्वालिफिकेशंस वाला बंदा है, उसका और एक बार में होता नहीं है सिलेक्शन. तो 1 साल गया, 2 साल गया, 3 साल गया, ये नुकसान किसका हो रहा है? ये तो राष्ट्र का नुकसान हो रहा है. तो आपको एग्ज़ाम की थोड़ी लेंथ कम करने की ज़रूरत है, और जहाँ कहते हैं ना जिसका काम उसी को सोए, साजे. So I mean something like that. You have to recruit people for the specialized work that they're going to be doing. No longer can you really manage with generalists. But I mean, this is just my opinion.
Right. Ma'am, a 22-year-old aspirant, say graduated from IIT or SRCC, very well equipped with private sector skills, but society also tells him or her कि ये नौकरी सबसे अच्छी है, IAS is the best job, सिविल सर्विसेज के लिए ट्राई करना चाहिए, बिकॉज उनको तो उल्टा ज़्यादा बोलती हैं, बिकॉज यू आर सो टैलेंटेड, आपका हो जाएगा. अब वो एग्ज़ाम भी दे देते हैं, बट ये प्रोसेस है 4-5 साल का. ग्रेजुअली दे लूज देयर प्राइवेट सेक्टर स्किल्स ऑल्सो. तो एज अ 22-year-old जो इस कंडीशन में है, जो प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए भी वेल क्वालिफाइड है, जो अब्रॉड भी जा सकता है, जो सिविल सर्विसेज भी क्रैक कर सकता है, उसमें वो पोटेंशियल भी है, उसे कितना टाइम देना चाहिए इस एग्ज़ाम को, और उनके लिए पीस ऑफ मैसेज क्या है अगर आप देना चाहें तो?
पहली बात तो है दबाव में मत आइए, काम वही करिए जो आपकी इच्छा है, क्योंकि एट द एंड ऑफ द डे यू नो दैट व्हाट यू लाइक टू वर्क ऑन इज़ व्हाट विल गिव यू पीस. आप हर दिन तो एक तो ये बात हुई. दूसरा ये हुआ कि जब आप सिविल सर्विसेज में आते हो तो गारंटी नहीं है कि आप जो आप सर्विस चाह रहे हैं उसी में जाओगे, तो आप कहीं भी जा सकते हो. एंड देन whether you will get job satisfaction, that's another aspect. एंड द थर्ड थिंग इज़, देखिए आपके पास ऑलरेडी क्वालिफिकेशंस हैं, so I don't understand the need to go into the government then. I mean, I'm not saying the government will not benefit, but like I said, oftentimes your talents are wasted in government. So I would suggest that somebody who has qualifications for a private sector job, why not go in there? Why not continue there? आई अंडरस्टैंड द प्रेशर्स, बिकॉज हम तो इलाहाबाद से हैं, हमें पता है वहाँ तो मतलब हर तरह से जो है लोग किसी भी दे आर विलिंग टू गेट इन टू दिस सर्विसेज एट एनी कॉस्ट. तो मतलब दबाव तो ज़रूर आता है, लेकिन उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप दबाव में आ जाएं. You have to take a step back, decide what is good for you. If you think that civil services is something you'd like to be in, that you'd like to actually join, then maybe you should try for it. But at the same time, I would suggest that don't give it more than 2 attempts, because it's very draining and morally, your morale comes down. So I don't think you should really waste that much of time on
Civil
preparing
services
for the
exam.
civil services.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for joining us at Civils Daily.
Thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure.